Hi everyone, welcome, thank you for coming today. I'm Toby Fehily, I'm the editor of Art Guide Australia and a freelance arts writer. With me today we have Frances Lindsay, Director of Australian Art at Mossgreen and former Deputy Director of the NGV. We have Paul Sumner, CEO of Mossgreen, and Lisa Fehily, Director of Fehily Contemporary. So firstly, congratulations you guys. Thank you everyone for coming. I'll just start with a question, Paul. So it's been 12 years since you started Mossgreen. It was much smaller then. Could you tell us a bit about the story about how you got here and what these two new appointments mean for the next stage?
Absolutely, Toby. Well, it's been an amazing journey, I have to say. In 12 years, I think sitting here is quite humbling in a way to see where we are today, and to have somebody like Frances Lindsay and Lisa Fehily joining on board. It's very exciting. We have our own board of directors. Charles Lesky is here today, and when we first started 12 years ago, Mossgreen was just an idea, and it basically came from my own background. My parents were art dealers in the UK, and so I guess it was sort of in my blood. And I came to Australia, fell in love with the country, and decided this is where I was going to live. But I thought, now how are you going to create a business? We all know that it's difficult to be an artist in a country like Australia. It's difficult to be an art dealer in a country like Australia. And surprisingly, it's not that easy to be an auctioneer either in this country, as you can see by the turmoil of the change of brands and all the rest of it in the art auction business in Australia. In fact, Mossgreen is the longest auction house in our auction wing, still under the same ownership after 12 years. So, and people often sort of forget that. So I looked at it and I thought, well, how can you create a business in Australia that maybe combines both, so that you have activity on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis through the art gallery, and that you expose people to contemporary art that might be coming into the auction business, who generally are not as avant-garde and as brave, if you like, but a very important group of people. But how do you expose contemporary living artwork to these people? And the idea of doing it all in-house was the concept, so that people literally, as they do in this space here, have to walk through the contemporary show to get to perhaps an auction. Just last week we had the estate of Jennifer Phipps, who many people here might have known. She was curator of Australian art at the NGV, and sadly died young, a great lady, and a wonderful collection full of personality. And we had that on view behind here, and people were forced, if you like, to come through here, and people probably who not normally coming to a contemporary space came through and engaged with Lisa and with Bernie Alibrando, who's here as well, over here, engaged and discussed the work and led to sales as well, which was obviously terrific for the artists and for everybody. But yeah, so that was the idea, to have auctions and to have a gallery space, and we developed our gallery in the early days, particularly picking artists that were relevant to the type of clients that we have. But we got to the point where we realized that if we were really going to be taken seriously in the contemporary art area, we would have to partner with somebody who could come in with the experience. And after a bit of a sort of courting period, if you like, with Lisa Fehily and Fehily Contemporary, we decided our board, and I think Lisa and Bernie decided this was the right fit for us to come together. And so today is really exciting. It's been a bit of a dream of mine, as I said to some of the artists who are here yesterday when we had a chat. It personally has been a bit of a dream for me to be able to have, and I knew I wouldn't be able to do it myself, but to do it in partnership with somebody, to have a serious contemporary gallery as part of the Mossgreen umbrella, if you like. So,
and to pick up on a point you made about it being difficult to be an artist in Australia, Lisa, could you tell me about how this new collaboration will benefit artists?
Oh, well, for us, again, in starting to talk to Paul, I realised there's tremendous synergy between Mossgreen as an organisation and us at Fehily Contemporary. And it's all about providing widening the audience and providing a broad experience. And that really is going to help our artists, because we're a small industry, and so broadening the audience is one of the things that's very important for the artists. And for nurturing the artists in this organisation, they're really exposed to this wonderful infrastructure. There's amazing opportunities coming up in that Paul, the organisation, is expanding to and has purchased an auction house in New Zealand. So there's exhibiting opportunities in New Zealand and are expanding nationally. So really being part of this large infrastructure is very exciting for our artists. And as Paul said, it's all about really nurturing and developing the careers of our artists, and we're really privileged to be joined to such a visionary organisation, which is going to make all the difference. So it's quite a privilege.
And this probably ties in as well, but could you tell me a bit about how this collaboration will affect collectors as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we were a little bit, as a gallery, we were quite tucked away in Collingwood before, which was wonderful. And I think, again, moving over this side, coming to Armadale, for the collectors, they've not only got us as a contemporary gallery here, they've got wonderful auctions to see at Mossgreen. We've got the Mossgreen Gallery as well, which is really being developed into a wonderful gallery for senior artists and providing retrospective exhibitions. So for me, I always talk about the Mossgreen Experience, in that really for collectors, Mossgreen is providing something that really no other arts organisation can do in Australia. It's a total experience for you, all in one location, well, across the road. And that's really exciting for the artists and for all of us collectors, absolutely.
Great, and I want to talk to Francis a bit about the Mossgreen Experience. Can you tell me how your experience as Deputy Director of the NGV, what you can bring from that into the Mossgreen Experience?
Okay, well, in my sort of previous art museum experience, which has covered a number of different galleries, primarily it's about the art and the artists always. And certainly when I was at the NGV, I was responsible for all of the curatorial departments, exhibition planning, exhibition delivery, all of the academic programs were there. I was also in charge of conservation, registration, too many to mention. So I really was very much involved with the whole kind of workings of the gallery. And in many ways, the vision here at Mossgreen, I think, is truly very dynamic and very exciting, because Mossgreen, I think, is developing a new paradigm for the way that galleries and auction houses can work to the benefit of artists. So I see Fehily Contemporary being very much for the younger generation of artists, to mid-career artists, and then, of course, ultimately, eventually, the collectors are growing with the gallery and also finding other works in the various auctions. So there's great scope for the growth of the collecting base here at Mossgreen, which will benefit all the artists. So I think it is very exciting. And I'm looking forward to adding value where I can. Hope I won't be a nuisance. I've only been here 3 days, so I'm still on the learning curve. But it is about the art, and it is about the artists, and we all want our artists to thrive, and we want the collectors to grow and for their knowledge base to be expanded, and I think I can help in those directions.
And as the paradigm shift happens and the changes start to come through, how do you envisage your role will develop going forward?
Well, look, I think it's going to be a lot like what I was doing at the NGV, making a few speeches here and there, doing some writing, helping the other curators working at Mossgreen, doling out a bit of wisdom from age. So I think it'll be a rounded experience. I'm going to enjoy it, have a lot of fun. Yeah.
Excellent. And Just one last question for Paul. So we've heard about some of the changes that are underfoot. What's next for Mossgreen?
Well, this isn't enough.
That's a dangerous question.
Yeah, well, those that know Mossgreen, there's always something sort of rolling over the horizon. But look, I think the most exciting thing at the moment for us is contemplating. And as I say, Francis, we'll wait for week 2 for Francis to get her head around this next one. But we're really looking at the relationship, because we're heavily now involved with New Zealand. And we've bought an auction house, which will turn into a gallery and auction house as per Mossgreen in Auckland. We're really looking at the relationship between New Zealand contemporary art and Australian contemporary art. And to my mind, the New Zealand secondary market, that is the auction market, resale market, is much, much, much stronger, with a population of 4.5 million, much, much stronger than here in Australia. Now, it's a complicated story, which I won't go into why that is, but we don't have a particularly strong resale market in Australia for contemporary art, and that again it's a long sort of subject as to why, but I think our auction wing could probably help and do some things here. There's some entrepreneurial opportunities for us to look at what we're doing in New Zealand, look at the region, learn from why they're doing things better over there than here, and bring that back into, and maybe even look at it in a regional sense. So that's I guess what we're sort of looking for the future, and I know Francis and Lisa, you'll be heavily involved with that. In fact, one of your artists I know is
Very exciting, yeah.
got exciting. This year's going to Venice.
Absolutely. Lisa Rehana is the next New Zealand representative for the Venice Biennale in 2017, which is really exciting. And I think following on from Paul's point, if we can work a little bit down the track with contemporary art here, it will just help our artists internationally, which is really something really exciting. So we're really at the forefront here to help do that.
So that's one thing, and then we're looking to what we're doing in terms of Sydney as well. Sydney is a major focus of our thinking at the moment, so don't be at all surprised if you see us doing something in that state later in the year. So yeah, there's always the great thing about this part of the world is, whilst it's smaller, and we know that, as I say, sort of going back to what we started off with saying, it's tougher in some ways here because it is a smaller market. But equally, because things haven't been done so much before, there's an opportunity to do things for the first time here. And people are very supportive. I will never forget from day one the support that we've had from the market, from the community, from collectors to Mossgreen from day one. If you had tried to do the Mossgreen business, say, in London or in America, you wouldn't have been taken seriously. You wouldn't have been given the support that we've had to date. And look at where we are now, and the future is exciting from here. But it is very much about the support of everybody getting you where you are. So.
And just to go back to what Francis said, it's above all about the art and the artists, so we'll just wrap up our discussion and let everyone keep looking at the exhibition. Oh, unless anyone else has a question.
I have a comment. It's been my privilege to be involved both with Mossgreen on another level, and I won't bore you with that, other than to say it's a very impressive organisation from my point of view. It has standards, it has ethics, and that's something I really, really appreciate as a consumer. And similarly, I was involved with Lisa in purchasing and supporting one of her artists when she was in Collingwood. And so it's very interesting for me as a consumer to see you come together like this. And I think it's fantastic.
Thanks.
Yeah, and congratulations, and I hope you do really well, both of you.
Thank you so much.
I think if anybody'd like to come, and we'll be mingling around, so if anybody'd like to come and ask one-on-one questions, I know some of the artists probably have got some questions to answer, but thanks to everybody for coming along, and enjoy the afternoon. And I should actually say too, because this is the nature of our business, that we do have Peter McMahon's collection of contemporary Australian art on view across the road as well. So please do go and see that while you're here. Enjoy this terrific show representing the Fehily Contemporary artists here, and thank you very much for everybody for coming along.